Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we begin this lesson, I wanted to ask you something. Have you ever said something that sounded a bit too harsh or blunt, even though you didn't mean it in that way? Maybe you had to bring up a sensitive topic, but weren't sure how to do it without accidentally hurting someone's feelings. Well, I have just the thing to help you out. Euphemisms. Now I know what you are thinking. What in the world is that? Don't worry. In simpler terms, euphemism is something that helps you say things in a softer, more polite way, instead of being direct or harsh, which in turn makes our conversations more smoother and, more importantly, respectful. Come on, let's look at some everyday examples of euphemisms that you can start using in your daily conversations. Trust me, they'll not only make your English sound more polished, but at the same time, you will sound more polite and thoughtful. Let's start with the first one. I'm sure many of you must have either said or heard this sentence. My granddad died last month, right? It's pretty common. But doesn't it sound a bit harsh and direct? Talking about someone's death is already hard enough, and using words like died can make it feel even more direct and uncomfortable. But that's where euphemism like passed away comes in. Instead of saying, my granddad died last month, you can say, my granddad passed away last month. See how much softer that sounds? Using passed away adds a bit more care and sensitivity to the conversation. It's a gentler way to share the news. And honestly, it shows more empathy. All right. Let's move on to the next one. He was fired from his job. Ouch. Doesn't that sound a bit too harsh? Losing a job is tough enough, and saying fired can really hurt. You know, it can make someone feel like they did something wrong. But we don't want to sound like that, right? Which is why we will replace the word fired with the euphemism let go. See? He was let go from his job sounds more understanding. I have another euphemism that you can use. Between jobs. Like, he was in between jobs. They all convey the same meaning, but these two make the reality a little less harsh, and it allows you to show a bit of compassion. Now, on the same lines, we have another word, unemployed. It's a word we often hear, but it can feel too blunt when describing someone's current situation. It can sound a bit negative and make people feel uncomfortable. Instead, you can use seeking new opportunities or career transitioning. They sound more professional, and it also implies that the person is active in improving their career situation. For example, you can say, Ryan is seeking new opportunities, or Seema is in a career transitioning phase. Instead of saying Ryan is unemployed or Seema is unemployed, you see? It's all about choosing the right words that make people feel valued and understood, not just about avoiding the harshness of business words. Now, let's talk about going to the toilet or bathroom. You would directly say, I need to pee, or I need to go to the toilet, or I'm just going to the bathroom, right? But sometimes these statements might feel a little informal or casual in certain situations, which is why in formal settings you can use the word restroom. So instead of saying, I need to pee, or I need to go to the toilet, or I'm just going to go to the bathroom, you can say, I'm just going to use the restroom. It's more polite and actually an accepted way of talking, especially in places like restaurants or offices. Now let's talk about aging. Many people find it uncomfortable to use words like old or elderly. You may ask, why? Well, even though these words are basic and technically accurate, they can sometimes come across as a little insensitive and also sometimes sound a bit rude. It's all about the tone, you know, which is why we will replace those words with euphemisms like senior citizen or golden years. Wow, they add a tone of positivity and respect, don't they? For instance, instead of saying my dad is old, you can say my dad is enjoying his golden years, or my dad is a senior citizen. It's a nice way to respect them and avoid being blunt about their age. Now, let's look at another situation. If someone has more weight on them, you may call them overweight, right? Or fat, or even plus-sized. But all those words are not only quite direct, they can also hurt someone's feelings. And they are not exactly the most polite way to describe someone, are they? I'm sure you'd agree with me. Instead, we can use a more respectful way to respect them by using, you guessed it, euphemism like full-figured. So instead of saying she is fat, you could say she's full-figured. It makes you sound less critical and more respectful. Next up, we have this sentence. He's really short. I know it's an adjective, but just like fat, saying someone is short directly is pretty blunt, right? I mean, we all know height isn't something you can change, and calling someone out for being short might make them feel really self-conscious. So instead of saying he's really short, you could say he's on the shorter side or he's vertically challenged. They are like a polite and playful way to describe someone. Then we have another example that can be a little tricky to handle. She is poor, as in financially poor. Now, calling someone poor financially directly can sound harsh and even disrespectful because it puts the spotlight on their financial struggles. So instead, we can use euphemisms like economically disadvantaged or not very well off. She is economically disadvantaged or she is not very well off. This way, you can be more respectful and understanding towards their situation. All right, let's move on to the next one. He is homeless for 2 years now. He is homeless for 2 years now. This can sound a bit too direct and make the situation seem more negative than it needs to be. So, a more respectful way to phrase this situation would be, he has been living on the streets for 2 years now. So even though we are changing the words, the meaning remains the same, but the tone becomes more gentle and neutral. Now, for a more serious one. I'm sure you have always heard or said, he is stupid, he is retarded. Well, guess what? These phrases can be hurtful and they are definitely not appropriate in most settings. While they may be said in, frustration or as a joke, they carry a lot of negativity with them, which is why we can replace them with euphemisms. Now, if you're just joking, then you can say he's just struggling with some things or he needs time and support to get it. But if you're actually commenting on someone's disability, then you can use he's mentally challenged or he has a learning challenge, to describe them by being respectful and polite towards the condition. Since it's an extremely sensitive situation, it is better to use euphemisms to be more respectful and kind rather than using the basic language. Now, enough of serious talk. Let's look at a funny but embarrassing situation. Kids love to use this word to tease someone, but we can use it as an adult in conversations, especially in a formal setting. Well, the word in question is farted. Can you say he farted during the meeting? Well, if you are with your friends, it's okay. But using it in a professional or formal setting can make things awkward and, more often, unprofessional. Which is why instead of saying farted, we can use passed gas. He passed gas during the meeting. Sounds polite, right? Well, you can also say he has some digestive issues. This keeps things light and less embarrassing, all while acknowledging what actually happened. Now, I have another fun one. This has nothing to do with being disrespectful, but it is more on the lines of complimenting someone, especially for those who are always there with you, by your side. It can be your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or even your partner. So instead of using these basic terms, you can address them as your better half. This is a beautiful way of saying that they are the most important person in your life, the one who actually completes you. It's like saying, without them, I'm only half of who I am. It shows how much you value them and how special they are to you. So next time you're introducing your significant other, try saying, this is my better half. Trust me, it might just make them smile and feel appreciated. Speaking of relationships, let's talk about dating. Now we all know what dating means, right? But sometimes saying we're dating can feel a little too casual or maybe not as serious as you would want it to sound. And that's why euphemism comes in. So instead of saying we're dating, you can say we're seeing each other or we are in a relationship. These phrases sound a little more committed and can show that you're both on the same page. And the last one is for all the pet owners out there. We all know how much we love our pets, right? They're like family. But there comes a time when we may have to make tough decisions when it comes to saying goodbye to them. No matter how hard it is, we all have to go through it someday, right? The technical phrase for this is euthanize an animal. But let's be honest, doesn't that sound too clinical and harsh? So to make things gentler, you can use this phrase, put to sleep. It's a more empathetic way of talking about that difficult and sensitive situation. So you can say they put their dog to sleep because he was suffering too much. Instead of saying they euthanize their dog because he was suffering too much, see how much better it sounds? A simple phrase can change the tone of your conversation significantly. And there you have it, a whole range of euphemisms that can help you say things more politely and respectfully, especially in sensitive situations. I hope these examples gave you a better understanding of how euphemisms work and how they can make a difference in your conversations. Now, if you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to ring the bell notification for more content like this. And before you go, make sure to leave a comment below telling me which euphemism was your favorite. Was it better half, golden years, or maybe between jobs? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.